So why is that significant? Well, first thing I want to ask you all, have you ever dreamt of a cell phone? Who here has ever dreamt of a cell phone? Raise your hand, say it out loud, put it in the comments. Have you ever dreamt of a cell phone? So that's something to think about. Now, for me, I have never dreamt of a cell phone. And I remember it being said before, like, have you, like, that's not a common thing. And then I sat back and I thought to myself, man, yeah, I never see cell phones. Now, I've seen old school phones. I've seen, if there was a cell phone, maybe it was like kind of like some weird amalgamation of one, but not really one that would be recognizable. Pay phones, I mean, cordless phones, but not a cell phone. And let's be even more specific, not what would be a modern day smartphone. And so I dreamt of a modern day smartphone. And so what makes it significant is this. So let me tell you the story. So I already kind of gave you a precursor, right? I was a co-facilitator at my friend's memorial service on Thursday. I was nervous. I was scared. I didn't know if I could do it. I wasn't sure if I was emotionally ready. Like in my mind, I'm like, am I just going to be up there crying? So of course I had nerves. Now, prior to that, I had been trying to communicate with her. Of course, right? This is like, I'm Kiki, right? You would expect these things. You expect that I was like doing all of that. And I was. And there were times where her presence felt pretty strong, but it was more of just kind of like, I'm here, but not necessarily what I guess I needed. And so it was the night before I popped a melly. I call melatonin melly because when I really need to guarantee some sleep, I usually will have a melatonin. I wanted to be well rested at least, right? Because I knew this day was going to be probably emotionally exhausting, and it was. And so I had a little melatonin, went to sleep, and I slept like a solid like 8 to 9 hours that night. And then I had the dream in the morning, of course. And so what the dream was this. I see her and I'm in a house and I'm visiting her and I open the door and she's there and I'm pissed off. I'm like, what are you doing here? You're not supposed to be here. You're supposed to be dead. And I'm like upset in this dream. I'm like, you guys faked her death? And so her son, her older son is there. And I'm like, you faked her death? How are you going to fake your death? Absolutely livid. I'm walking around pissed off. I'm like, why would you do this? I'm sitting here trying to prepare for this thing tomorrow and you're faking deaths. And I'm like upset, meaning because this dream for me is like in real time. So for some reason, like I'm still in my mind thinking tomorrow I have to do this thing. I'm like, so here I am and I'm doing all this. I'm preparing. I'm stressed out. I'm stressed out. And here you are and you're faking your death. I'm pissed off. So they're trying to calm me down, like calm me down. And the funny part is, of course, I'm not paying attention to what I'm seeing, right? If I didn't say this before, she passed after battling cancer for really quite some time, but about 2.5 years of it coming back after she had been in remission for a while. And so that meant chemo, the whole nine, hair loss, all of it. She had all different health complications from it, from the cancer. So there was a lot that essentially she didn't look like the person that I saw when I first met her. And of course, in the dream, she looked like more like the person I saw when I first met her, even more like bouncy. So she's like bouncing all around the house. She's like, just like comfortable in this body that I'm seeing, the shape, but really it was more like a shape, just bouncing around. And then she's like, listen, just calm down. And she gives me her cell phone. And I feel the cell phone. I feel the weight of it. It feels so real. She goes, look, I need you to give a message to everyone. Please do it on Facebook. Give me a message. And she goes, but I need you to, but I can't do it. I'm like, well, why can't you do it? She goes, well, my phone doesn't have any R's. And I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah, my phone doesn't have any R's. So can you translate it? And then you put the message out. So I'm like, fine. All right, fine. So I take the phone and I'm holding it and I'm looking at the message, trying to figure out where the R's need to be. And every time I would start doing it, I get pissed off and look around and be like, you faked your death? what is this? Like, what are we supposed to be doing right now? And they're trying to like, and she's just like, just, come on, relax, relax. And so I wouldn't get to it. And then when the screen would black out, then I would end up putting in, I was like, well, what's your password? I'm like, never mind, I know your password. And I put in a password, and the password actually was the date of the funeral, and then the time of the time it started, which is something that I didn't put together until later. I was like, oh shoot, it's the same number. So I put in the number, and I and I kept on trying to get the screen back up, and then I would try to put it back into my iPad. And that was a pretty common thing that we would do, right? I would be on my iPad when I was visiting her, and then she'd hand me her phone all the time, look at pictures, look at stuff. So it's a very common thing. And I wouldn't always be on my iPad, but it's funny when I think about it. But the last visit, I definitely was there. But here she is, just bouncing around. Her son is like, listen, calm down, Kiki, it's okay. And he said, hey, let's, I'll whip up some omelets. Do you like omelets? I make a really good omelet. I'm like, and they're trying to do everything. At this point, they're smiling at me and just being like, relax. And I'm like, I'm trying to forgive you all. And then the funny part is that I was planning to wear white, but I wasn't sure because white is white, and I'm like, but I knew white was right to wear, but there was still like this thing of like, oh, these people might feel offended. And they probably were at first, but then they found out why I did it. But at the time in the dream, I was like, you know what? I was gonna wear white tomorrow, and I wasn't sure, but now for sure I'm wearing white because this is effed up, So then I woke up, right? And I looked at, I wrote everything down, and I thought about it as far as the meaning goes. One, the cell phone thing blew my mind because I was like, oh shoot, you finally dreamt of a cell phone. And then I was like, oh shoot, you dreamt of her. You never have in all of your time ever dreamt of her. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So those two things were amazing. And then I thought to myself, well, what were you angry at? You were angry at the fact that she wasn't dead. And I was like, oh, of course she isn't. That was the whole point of the dream. It was her telling me she's fine and she's around all her favorite things. And in the dream, of course, she was surrounded by a whole bunch of technology. That was her thing. She was a gamer. She loved all kinds of video games. She had an Oculus. She loved that Oculus. She'd always be on that Oculus. She just loved technology. She had a gadget for everything. I had never even eye mask. She had a vibrating eye mask. All this stuff. You would just be amazed. She had everything that could exist. There was a gadget for it. So that was how she lived. She had all these gadgets. And so in the dream, she was surrounded by all those kinds of things. So I never dreamed of that much technology in a dream either. In one space. And yeah, it was telling me that she was fine, right? So that message was clear, right? She was fine. She wants me to communicate. The R was really significant because, of course, my full name starts with an R. And so I kind of knew I had to just kind of make sure I wasn't performing and I was authentic. And so that was really clear. And because sometimes the kikiness of it all will make me perform, right? Even now, right now I'm performing because I know that I'm in a live video. So there's some level of performance. And so I had to kind of let go of that. Just to allow myself to be as authentic and cry and do all this stuff, even though, as you all know, nothing's going to prevent me from doing that. But it was important. And so, and that was the other thing. It was also a vote of confidence, just do you, be yourself. You know you're going to do these things anyway. So I was going to wear white, right? I was going to do that. And so it was just this vote of confidence. You don't have to be anyone except yourself. Just go out there and do that. And that's exactly what I did. And then of course the other part was just yeah, I'm not dead. I'm like, yeah, I know that, but now I feel it, right? And so that was so important. So that was the dream. So here is the background and going deeper into understanding it. Most of us have not dreamt of a cell phone. And so there was a study about this, and I found an article, but a set of researchers found out that almost 3.5% of women dream about mobile phones, and a mere 2.6% of men dream about it too. It's not a huge number, so it's not that common, but most people see lesser new innovations like mobiles, computers, and airplanes in their dreams, okay? But one of the more common dreams where people see a mobile phone is when they have lost a dear one, or they dream about that person calling them on the phone. So essentially Typically, when they've lost someone close to them, that's when it happens. So, isn't that so cute that it all came together in that situation where here she is communicating with me and using that cell phone, that modern form of communication, and then even my iPad's never made an appearance, of course, and they're both there and just letting me know, like, hey, that connection is always going to be there.